Hi, I'm Ken Burke, and welcome to our Clerk podcast. And we have our special guest with us, our FCCC President, Greg Harrell, the clerk from Marion County. Greg, it's good to see you here this morning.
Good morning, Ken. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Why don't you, first of all, tell us, we know you as clerk. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, some of your hobbies, your family, things that we should know about you.
Sure. Well, thanks again. I'm an Ocala boy, born and bred, I guess you'd say, pretty much. I grew up here in Ocala. My grandparents moved here about 100 years ago, and my
Wow.
grandfather was one of the first 10 doctors in Marion County, and his wife, my grandmother, was his nurse in a lumber camp near Tampa. And when she got pregnant and they started having a family, she said, "Get me out of this lumber camp and take me to a town." So they found the big city of Ocala, Florida, and that's when our family began putting down roots here. Ironically, my dad also became a doctor, and my mother was his nurse. And so I was essentially the middle child, black sheep of my parents' family. And I tell folks I heard one too many lawyer jokes, and they sounded like the cool kids. So I decided to become a lawyer instead of a doctor.
But you
But
married a doctor, didn't you?
I did. So that's the joke too, is they got a doctor out of me after all. Yeah, hobbies. I guess first off, I'd say maybe it's not really a hobby in its purest sense. It's more of an avocation, but I absolutely love being a dad. It's very much part of who I am. I love spending time with my kids. But as far as sort of more typical hobbies, I'm sort of a nerd. I was an English major in college. I love wouldn't say this out loud to too many people, but here I am doing it on a podcast. I love 19th century British literature and 20th century American literature. I love tennis. There's not a single sport that I can have a bad day doing and walk away still having had fun like tennis. So that's kind of what I like to do in my free time, but I really do love being a clerk.
Talk about your children. I know one of your children is off at the University of North Carolina shortly, and the other is in high school, I believe.
That's right. Our son Walker just graduated high school, and he will be starting at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in the fall. And our daughter is about halfway through high school, and though she will miss her brother, she is happy to have the house to herself. And she's about to retry out for the golf team at high school in a couple weeks.
That's wonderful. Greg, why don't you tell us about how you got involved in FCCC and how you're now serving as president?
Sure. Well, I joined Team Clerk, if you will, about 13 and a half, almost 14 years ago now, as general counsel to my predecessor, the Honorable David Ellspermann, who served as Marion County Clerk and Comptroller for 24 years. And I was general counsel to Mr. Ellspermann and to this office for 8 years, his last two terms in office. And I really credit Mr. E, as we call them, with getting me involved with FCCC quickly. It's how I got to know good folks like you and Clerk Rushing and others in the clerk family. And he gave me the opportunity to work on the clerk's legal panel, the best practices work group. And immediately I knew beyond sort of the four walls of this office that there was a network of people throughout the state that made up the association that really made it an organization that I could learn from personally, but that we could all sort of help work together and make each other better and stronger.
Tell us about what your ambitions, and I know you don't have personal ambitions. You have ambitions, though, for the clerk family. So talk about your role as president and what your ambitions are, please.
Sure. And first, I would answer that in a little bit of an abstract sense, because I guess I would say that I really do want us to see ourselves and treat ourselves in our interactions with others as who we really are. And now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that I think in many ways we are the standard of what transparent, responsible, and accountable local government looks like. And so if the fellow stakeholders we do business with and our customers can leave their interactions with us statewide thinking a few things. Number one, that our offices help them get done what they needed to get done. Number two, that their interactions with our offices weren't as bad as they thought they were going to be. And number three, that we treated them fairly and with dignity and respect. And I think, frankly, we can do all of those things, that we're doing well by our fellow stakeholders and by our customers. Now, what does that look like relative to FCCC? I think it means us living up to our motto to say that we are united statewide to protect the public trust. And though as president, I sort of resisted the urge to embrace any sort of equine theme, with Marion County being the horse capital of the world, I did like the idea and the notion of us, what I call running our own race. Because I think sometimes we fall victim as clerks and comptrollers to comparing ourselves to other constitutional officers that we're not really comparable to. We are a unique office and we have a lot of responsibilities. And I think we need to act like the unique constitutional officers we are, be proud of that, lean into that, and really just excel at what we do. I think in doing that, the association helps us. And during the time that I've been part of Clerk World, I think the association has grown tremendously and gotten more and more professional and better at helping clerks do what they need to do. And so in that regard, along the horse themes, I say that we really need to hit our stride. And I think we're close to doing that. And then once we do hit our stride, we need to just run like nobody else is in the race. We need to set the pace, don't look back, continue to move forward. And I think we're poised to do that.
Greg, that is so powerful what you just said. And I know I read my comment cards that we get, and when people come in and say, gosh, I thought this was going to be a horrible experience, and it turned out to be so helpful and wonderful, it's rewarding to read those types of things. But one thing which you mentioned to me the other day is our legislative agenda, and you want to focus on correcting some of the problems with our legislative agenda, where we used to focus on funding, and we can expand upon our focus, where there's so many conflicts in the legislation, which we have answers for. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Whenever you have funding needs, it's easy to focus on that almost exclusively sometimes. But the reality is we work so hand in hand with not only the legal system and the judicial branch, but also with our local counties. And so whether it's on, wearing our Article 5 judicial branch hat or our Article 8 executive branch hat, the laws are tweaked each year, of course, by the legislature. And though we always will be inclined to do what we can to have the resources we need from the legislature to do our jobs as well as we can, I think we have some opportunities to really prove our value in the years ahead, including this year with the legislature, to show them where, with some slight tweaks to the laws, we can make things better for the public. We have been, working on those things, of course, throughout the years, and we have some good ideas about how we can get a lot of bang for our buck, but also prove to the legislature how we are helping the people that they represent, who are the same people that we represent.
Last year, as president-elect, you chaired our strategic plan committee, and you did a magnificent job at that, and it set really the tone for the next few years. Talk about the strategic plan and what that's setting for the clerks.
Sure. The strategic plan, Ken, I think is really kind of where the rubber meets the road. So some of those more abstract, lofty ideas I was talking about before, to be able to affect those types of things, you really got to roll up your sleeves, get down in the weeds, and get to it. Well, that's what I think the strategic plan is. It's a roadmap for accomplishing the objectives that we've set for our association. And so what it does is it lays out 5 main objectives, as well as restating our vision, our motto, and our pillars. Our vision for the association is to champion the success of Florida's clerks and comptrollers. Our mission, it's quite a bit, but it's really to help clerks by delivering a trusted, accurate, and a good advocacy program, high quality education, and provide its members with timely and accurate information and innovative technology. So we have a lot to accomplish, but what the strategic plan does is it sets out this 5-year goals or set of objectives that each year we can recalibrate and tweak as we need to accomplish the most each year in the year we're facing. So beneath the objectives, we have goals, strategies, and measures, because then we need to see how we're doing on those objectives. And the beautiful thing about the strategic plan, I think, Ken, is our governance structure, which we'll talk maybe a little bit more about in just a bit. But it allowed us to essentially obtain buy-in in a collaborative way where everybody had their voice heard, whether it was through district caucuses, meetings about the strategic plan itself, or an executive session at our conferences. Clerks were all able to weigh in, and the truth, essentially, it's sort of like a Venn diagram. You know, you have one circle over here, one circle over here, and where they overlap in the middle, that's where the truth seems to arise, because we have that shared commonality of what we want the association to do for us. And so it was well vetted, and I think it's something we can all be proud of. I feel very blessed and selfishly to be president in the first year of this new plan, because we have a clear plan, we can follow that plan, and hopefully, by the end of my year as president, and I'm excited about Clerk Reynolds from Putnam County to follow me next year as the president of the association. He will be well suited to step into the second year of that plan.
Well, thank you for your leadership in developing our strategic plan. As you said, with a big committee, with all clerks involved, it was a very inclusive process. And speaking of governance, which you were just referenced, you talk about the board of directors, and we have a diverse board of directors, and you appoint all committees. You're the president, and as head of that board, and you have small counties, large counties, counties in the Panhandle, counties in South Florida, a variety of people. What's it like to lead such a diverse board?
Herding cats. No, I'm just kidding. It really is fantastic. There is a richness in our diversity. And one of the things that has always been appealing to me, Ken, is the fact that each clerk sort of brings their own personality, background, leadership style to the fray. As you know, you are a CPA. I'm a lawyer. A lot of clerks are CPAs. A lot of clerks are lawyers. Some are neither. We have some longtime staff members that have come up through clerks' offices and are just a wealth of experience in the office. More recently, we have some political appointees. And I think maybe that's a reflection of the perception of the office, which is not a bad thing. The governors have seen fit to appoint folks that have done well in the legislature to this office. So we really have a wide array of folks that are serving as clerks and comptrollers, and that's not a bad thing. When I went through New Clerk Academy, my fellow clerk, Greg James in Wakulla County, was the longtime finance director for his predecessor. I was the longtime lawyer for my predecessor. We sort of looked across the room at each other and knew right away, hey, that's the guy I may call for a finance question. He said, hey, I may call Greg down in Ocala for a legal question. And that's how we make each other stronger. So does it lead to conversations that can sometimes be not difficult, but differences of opinion being expressed? Absolutely. But that's how we get to a better overall product, is the richness in our diversity and our experience, and iron sharpens iron, right? And I think that's what we do as clerks and comptrollers.
People listening to this podcast, some are going to be clerk employees, some are not. So could you tell us about how FCC is organized and the importance of our committee structure?
Sure. It's basically we have a board of governors, or a board of directors rather, with an executive committee and a committee structure that is subject matter focused, that reports up in its own work for each individual committee to the board of directors. And, it leads to there being subject matter experts in these different areas that the committees address that can vet issues and do the legwork on issues and then report up through our representatives on the board of directors that can then act with the input of the subject matter experts, but also the input of all of the clerk members throughout the state. In some ways, it lends itself, I think, to a very democratic process because you can have as much voice or as little voice as you want as a clerk and comptroller. You can lean in and be part of that. You don't necessarily have to, but I think the overall product is better the more people are involved. The association, of course, helps and comes alongside that committee and board structure and helps each of the committee members, the work groups that operate under the committees, and the board with any information or data they might need, and with the actual governance, the rules of governance. And that structure, I think, lends itself to buy-in. So that when we make decisions, we end up having vetted whatever it is. Now, can that structure sometimes be a little cumbersome? Yes. And sometimes issues in today's world that move so fast, we need to be agile and we need to move quickly. But I do think we have that agility and the ability to do it. We just need to make sure whenever we do that and are moving quicker than the governance structure ordinarily would move, that we need to communicate well. And I think we have the resources and the tools and the mindset to do that.
One of the strange part about governance with the Clerks Association is CCOC, the Clerks of Court Operating Corporation, which is a state organization. It's part of government. And how does the association, which is private, relate and work with CCOC?
That's a great question, Ken. And they are, I think the easiest way to answer that question is we're separate organizations with different statutory responsibilities, but we're so closely aligned in our overall mission that they're two organizations that by their very natures have to work together, and they do. CCOC was created, as you know, by the Florida legislature. It has specific statutory responsibilities, primarily related to the state funded court related functions of our job. FCCC, on the other hand, is our statewide professional association. It has a broader mission. It includes advocacy, education, professional development, communications, collaboration with different stakeholders, and supporting both our court-related functions and our county-related responsibilities. But again, even though they have distinct roles, there really is shared vision and mission in a lot of ways, and commitment primarily to making sure that we have the resources to do what we need to do to be successful.
Greg, let's turn away from all the governance issues and CCOC and all that type of thing. You mentioned your hobbies, and your greatest hobby is being a dad, and that's wonderful. That's a tremendous compliment to you. So let's talk about your accomplishments as clerk of Marion County. What are some of your greatest accomplishments as clerk of Marion County?
Well, I would say we've definitely made some tremendous technological strides since I became clerk. But I would really give the credit for those types of advancements to my fellow clerks and comptrollers, because one of the things that I have loved about our association and its members is our willingness to share successful ideas and endeavors with each other. We talked about this at Best Practices last week. And we're not afraid as an entity to try things that maybe won't work. And we share those stories too, right? And so some of the best things we've implemented from an operational sense here in Marion County are things like the property alert service, scheduling appointments where we didn't do that before, making information and payment abilities for customers easier, but they were fairly obvious things. I sort of get credit as clerk as, oh, Greg's so, intuitive and ingenious. I'm just stealing ideas from you guys, and we've always had a willingness to do that. But personally, the thing I'm most proudest of, Ken, is I think helping instill a very collaborative and inclusive culture here that really values creativity and is not afraid to fail. Now, we're not reckless in trying things, but we're willing to try new ideas, see if they work, and know that if it doesn't, maybe we just need to course correct a little bit. And I think some of my people needed to kind of understand that I meant that when I said it. I even had one of my most senior employees say, we're not sure we trust you yet when you say that. Give us some time. And it did take some time, but I'm really proud of that. And I sort of feel like an old-fashioned football coach where I need to have a good offensive coordinator, a good defensive coordinator, but I need to get out of the way, right, and let them do their jobs. If I'm micromanaging them, that doesn't help anybody. And there are talents and skill sets that some of my people have that I will never have. And I don't need to pretend like I do have them. So I think one of the things I'm proudest about is knowing what my limitations are and getting out of the way of my people that don't have those limitations.
Well, Greg, you have very few limitations, I see, and you do a magnificent job up there. You didn't mention, but you graduated from University of Virginia with your English degree, and then went on to the University of Florida with your law degree. But you were smart to marry a Florida State girl who's went to medical school there, and I certainly appreciate that. So I want to thank you for this interview and give you the chance to make any concluding remarks you would like to make, please.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate this opportunity again, and you're doing a great job with this series. I think it fits in very well with our pillar of advocacy. We need to be talking about who we are as clerks. We need to be talking with our fellow stakeholders, and thank you for doing that. And Clerk Patty in St. John's, who I think was sort of the original idea guy behind this, his wisdom in seeking you out because you're really good at this. I would just say what a tremendous honor it is for me to be, I would call the steward of this position. It's just my turn. And I'm honored to be able to help lead it for this year. But even when this year is over, I hope to continue to be an invested, integral part of what we do as clerks and comptrollers because I thoroughly enjoy working with you guys. You make me better. It's actually very professional and personally rewarding too. So I love being a clerk. I love being a comptroller. I'm not perfect. None of us are, but I'm always trying to get better. And I think the association through its professional staff and our fellow clerk members, we make each other better. And I'm so honored to be part of that. And I just appreciate you doing this very much.
Thank you, Greg Harrell, Clerk of Marion County, for our Clerk Podcast.
Thanks, Ken.